Thank you for joining us. Make sure that you sign in and write who sent you here, who brought you, and then that person gets entered into the mug club. So if you saw the mug sitting back there, when you get 3 or more people, you get the mug, which is really nice. Doris is the only one in the mug club so far because she brings lots of people.
And I'm going to help someone else get their mug.
So Tori and Randon are not here today. I'm Colleen Kimball, for those of you who don't know. The 3 of us are organizers. They are actually at Kaufman Labs. Our organization, 1 Million Cups, is a part of Kaufman Labs, which is on there. So they're down representing us and getting some more good information for how to make Peoria's 1 Million Cups even better. Of course, we're an educational group of entrepreneurs, inventors, and the like who come and speak, and then we all ask questions and give each other good feedback. So today's presenters are Mike and Heather Achera. And Mike was here about a year ago telling us about his LUX BLOX, and back then he only had the prototype, and the patent hadn't gone through yet. So those of you who weren't here, sorry, there's no video. But you're going to get to learn about their product today and see what it's doing and how far it's come. So that's going to be really exciting. So I'm going to give it to them.
Great, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Last time you saw the beast, and now you get the CEO and the shark. That's right. Heather has invested her money in this project, and so it has lots of good stewardship and direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last time that you were here, you probably got to see some of the blocks that were made on the 3D printer. Is that right?
Right.
And so since then, we have commissioned 2 injection molds. We're working with 2 manufacturers to produce the blocks for us. And we continue to be completely 100% made in the U.S. You can tell them where all of the parts come from?
Yeah, what you're mostly seeing today are the blocks, and the blocks, like she said, come from Elroy, Wisconsin, and Bloomington, Illinois. They may not know about each other yet, but we found out early on it's good to have 2 manufacturers. Yeah. So, and they're injection molded, like Heather said, and which means a press comes together and knocks out either 16 or 32 every 30 seconds. Basically, from last time I saw you, we brought it to mold, went to a show in North Carolina, Charlotte, at the Astra show, American Specialty Toy Retail Association. That was our first big show, kind of like our coming out party. And it was really nerve-wracking, and I got in West Virginia the night before. I didn't realize until the morning when I woke up at 5 in the morning, my whole face had swelled up like Rocky Graziano in Raging Bull, and or Marciano, and Graziano, I forget. I had touched poison ivy and rubbed it in my eye. So the night before our big trade show, I looked like a freak. And luckily, somebody gave us their personal prescription of prednisone. And I put about 4 Benadryl down my gullet. And I was so high in adrenaline, it didn't affect me at all. I was like, wah!
Yeah, but that was actually really great endorsement because at the trade show, we were a brand new product. We're in the back at the half booths, that we just barely got into the trade show. And we were actually quite the big hit. And that was due in large part to the video that Raphael produced for us. It has a tremendous effect at demonstrating the product. And so what we were told was former heads of Astra, this network of boutique toy stores, neighborhood toy stores, were geeking out in their hotel room the night before watching our video, like, we have to check this out. So we had a line of people just
There's guys 4 deep in their hotel rooms watching your video on their iPhones.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you, Raphael.
Yes.
So one of our early investments, besides the mold, was let's put our resources into this crazy curly-headed guy I met at your 1 Million Cups of Coffee, because I think he loved the product and the presentation. And I think it's because I censored him, wouldn't let him film the last presentation. He wanted those shackles off and him and I just burned for a day making video clips, and that video went crazy at the show. Later on, we filmed 7 kids and myself with a series of instructional videos that are online now, and because our philosophy was what?
Well, we want to encourage free play, and we also understand that kids today, having children today, they really don't read instructions. So my children, when they want to learn about playing Minecraft, go watch other kids play Minecraft on YouTube and so forth. So we're just like, hey, let's make it all video. Let's put it all online. And most parents and most kids get it. Occasionally we'll get a toy store owner who says, oh, I need instructions. But for the most part, this is the age in which we live.
Right. So pretty much everything in the box there's a video for. And you can go to luxblox.com, or we have a Vimeo channel, and now we're having a YouTube channel. And so the kids can just see the video. And today we found our first clone out there. I don't know what you call it, kids that copy.
Oh, yes.
And Cece Wilcox showed us his niece made a video. And we looked at the video, and sure enough, and that's what kids do. They want to imitate what they see and make their own videos. So on our website, we're working on a gallery so kids could upload their videos and create that kind of community. That's what we want to do with our company.
Absolutely. One of the things we're really excited about is the packaging. And Michael and I, because we're kind of both rebels at heart, we deliberately went against the trends. I think if you ever go to a toy store, if you look online, the trend is definitely towards primary colors, red, yellow, green. You also tend to see, it's a horrible formula, but what you often see is, like for an action toy, a kid with their mouth open, like,
Crazy, maniacal children.
I don't find that attractive. And so we wanted to also play to the appeal of all ages working, playing with this toy. And so we wanted to look more sophisticated. It's going to be in boutique toy stores. So we went with the black. And we have a wonderful package designer out of Staten Island who also was very proud of his end product. And he's blogged about this as well. So we think it fits the retail establishments that we're going after, but we also want to appeal across all ages, so we're really happy with it.
We told our designer, we said, we love what he did, and we said, you're lucky because you have a client who wants you to burn on this and make this the thing you're going to be proud of. And he goes, really? Like, yeah, we really just show us what you got.
We called him on a Saturday. He happened to be in the office, and so he's talking to us, and we're giving him our vision, and he's like, I'm really glad I came to work today. So that was good. He was excited.
And he was a geometry geek, so he loves geometry things. That's why I looked him up, because he was making really cool, different kinds of shaped boxes. We ended up going with a cube, but we originally were talking about polyhedral, weird shapes for the boxes, but that's expensive.
Yeah.
And what else?
Well, yeah, what else? What else would you guys want to hear about? So we're in stores now. Yeah, we're down in Peoria. We're at the Riverfront Museum, and as I know, this is kind of an interactive group. You like to support one another. We are interested if you guys have suggestions about, other places at which you think we should be selling our product. We're looking for all the help we can get in that regard. But we're in Spain now, Canada. We're on Michigan Avenue. We're in Bloomington, Champaign-Urbana. We're in several states already.
About a third of the states right now.
Yeah, so it's just picking up
and that's just word of mouth
momentum.
stuff. That's not. We just hired a first rep last night.
Right.
Because we want to, because we really want to see what we can do just by generating from what the trade show did, and from that's a really small community. What did the rep say last night about word of mouth? Mars.
What?
He said if a toy store owner doesn't know about your product, they must live on Mars.
Oh, yes. So because I'd asked this fellow, I really wanted him to rep us because he's had a lot of experience, and I'm also, obviously, we're not toy people. I'm a human resources director, Michael's an artist, so I was really looking for experience. And so I said, well, hi, I'm Heather. I'm with Lux. Have you heard of us? He said, you'd have to be on another planet not to have heard of Lux. So it's pretty big in the toy community right now, which is exciting. So we hired our first rep, and they're going to help us tremendously because there's just no way that I have a full-time job and Michael can't cover the whole United States. So, and that's what you're learning. You're learning how the industry works. It's all just one big learning experience.
We just recently hired Bridgeway in Macomb and Galesburg to do a lot of our packaging and call centering and...
Are you guys familiar with Bridgeway? Do you know what that is? It's a nonprofit that works with handicapped adults or disabled in one sort or another, and it gives them vocational training, and they are so excited. They've been tremendously helpful in terms of setting up our packaging and so forth, and that to me was really key because this particular rep that I spoke with, he said, well, I knew about you and I was excited about your product and I've been endorsing it actually, but I didn't want to call you because I heard you weren't using reps. And I said, well, part of the reasoning behind that is I wanted to make sure we were operationally together and we had our act together before I started, potentially increasing our volume of sales. I wanted to make sure we could actually handle it. And he said, well, you'd be shocked how many people don't. And that's one good thing. It's that we've...
Yeah, I call it like the floodgates for the dogs of war. I mean, if you ask reps to sell your product, you better be ready for the alarms to go off. And in the toy industry, you see it all the time. Things run out. The benefit of being in America is that the Chinese, it takes them about 10 weeks to get their product over here. So October, November, you have a huge advantage over the Chinese. If there's an instant demand, you're right here and you could fill it up and they got to put it in a container. And so there is an advantage to make products in America if you can eliminate the labor cost. That's the trick.
Absolutely. And they're very reasonable.
You're there.
patents. You might be curious about that process, how that's coming along. We have a terrific patent attorney near Washington, D.C. He's been very supportive. In fact, he keeps Michael on the phone sometimes for hours, not charging us, just talking about business.
He started charging.
Yeah. Oh, did he start charging? Oh, darn. Oh, well, darn. But no, he's a really great guy, and he's shepherded us through this process. At this point, we're through the first. There's various hurdles that you go through. It's like steps of review, and I think we're through the first two in the US.
They'll say, no way. We made a patent with 287 drawings, which is really obnoxious for a patent office people, because they want to allow like one thing, and they'll say for a favor they'll give you 5 extra claims, and we had 287 drawings, multiple claims. We have stacked versions with circuit boards inside these things, where if you have a battery over here, you could plug in a light bulb over here and a little rotor over here, and it's like the whole thing would be electrified. That's in the patent too. And they're like, what? You can't. That's a separate patent. You know, the trick to play with a hot patent is you get one allowance, and they give you 5 extras, right? And then what you do is you get everything else rejected. Then you walk to the back of the line, and you get in line again because you want to add more on. And they say, oh, him and back. He already got his patent. He gets to the front of the line, and you get right to the front of the line because you're already a made man, so to speak. And so that's called keeping your patent hot. It's a game. It's a lot of gamesmanship in the IP world, where you're trying to say to everyone else, stay the hell away from me, right? So you make your patent hot. The EU is very skittish about getting anywhere near a patent. They're very, because their judicial area is not predictable like in the US and in Britain. We have more predictable outcomes, but I guess the German court system is really weird, and they never know how it's going to go, so they don't like to go there.
But we made it through the first review on the EU side.
Oh yeah, we're
that's
first
very
review
good.
EU, US, and we filed for a PCT, which is a kind of a treaty. So it's like a game. If you pay for the PCT, you get 30 months to make up your mind who in the Pacific Rim you want to patent with. So for 30 months, no one can touch you, right? Which is a nice, for a few $1,000 is a nice thing to have. So you might say Brazil and Taiwan, and I'm not going to worry about Uruguay, right? Because you're only protecting markets.
And just to be clear, what this really is, it's a pinless hinge. And so this is, in fact, the main component that has utility well beyond the toy, which could be very interesting for us. So it'll be interesting to see. Our electrician thought that this had tons of utility, where they're attaching different wires in Alaska, and they have big gloves on. It's very difficult to splice wires and this kind of thing. He said if you could come up with a platform where you're attaching wires that way, that would be
so huge. There's a cable harness in the patent. So that's what we did. We started throwing all these things in the patent: cable harnesses and belts and buckles, and we just chucked it all in the hopper.
So we'll see how that all pans out, but it's good to have that protection. What else are you interested in, Doris?
Heather, what's your pricing structure?
Sure.
Where we start off with, I have a 3-year-old, so this would not be.
We focus grouped it with 3-year-olds just fine. What they do is a 3-year-old, we have films of 3-year-olds like Ben, right? And they oftentimes work with their mom with hand over hand play, but they could do it on their own, especially if you use a tabletop as a tool. If you use it, so this requires certain kind of motor activity because you have to offer a counterforce, right? Which is a little sophisticated even for some adults. It's not. But on a table, you put them together like 2 trains, it's coupling. It's just easy
then they
as pie.
can snap, or they can snap in the top. So you see,
So
what
that's
I
for the
saw,
kids
they
good.
play with them at their developmental level.
Yeah.
So at my work, someone's grandchild came over, and her brother was playing with it extremely well. It was so fun to watch him. He was a big Lego kid. And once he realized that hinge offered him all kinds of possibilities beyond just stacking bricks, he came up with something that was like a crab-like creature, which was really cool just to watch him free play come up with that. But his little sister, who was I think 4, she initially was doing tessellation. So her developmental level was sorting the colors, making trains, and just lining them up. And then her mom showed her how to connect them, and then, of course, what she make jewelry. So, they play with them at their level.
The little guys just dig this stuff. They just dig it. Get a bracelet, or one kid made this, of course, you know what this is, right? It's a lightsaber, of course. But sometimes they'll make things and it'll be like a dog. Like, it's a dog. I don't see dog, but awesome. So little kids, they have more play imagination, right?
So she was interested in the sizes and the price points. So this is $29.99. It says it's 88 pieces, is actually 90 because it was easier to bag it that way. So we'll revise that later.
The boxes.
And one of the great things about it is we don't count the accessories. Unlike other construction blocks, we throw in a bunch of straws and popsicle sticks and dowel rods, and it's to give an inspiration, not only to enable someone to build any model which is pictured on the set. You can build, with these contents, you can build a helicopter, any of these items. But the inspiration, Michael probably talked about this a little bit, was Michael's been an educator. I've been involved with training for a long time. We homeschooled our kids. We're very interested in learning and pedagogy. We were inspired a great deal by LUX BLOX, which inspired Frank Lloyd Wright and Buckminster Fuller. So we wanted something new for this day and age that would have the same kind of impact. And we deliberately designed these openings in the middle to allow kids to use ordinary household objects to expand the set. So with this opening, you can fit a popsicle stick, a number 2 pencil, a straw. Straws are included as well. So we're really encouraging of that free play. We are interested, I mean, of course
this is just a straw and a dowel rod. 2 straws and 2 straw halves, 1 middle straw, and a couple little tiny dowels and popsicle sticks.
Oh yeah,
and
we put rubber bands in there too.
So and the dowel rods come from I looked up Dowel Rods, Illinois, just on a lark, the Chicago Dowel Rod Company. You know, been in business for like a million years. I was like, that's unbelievable. I want to brag about that. So we get our dowel rods from Chicago, and it's all made with Wisconsin birch, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So
mostly Wisconsin and Illinois. We have Florida straws, though.
Florida straws.
But, so anyway, $29 for 90 pieces. This one is 200 pieces for $69.99, and 360 pieces for $129.99. So, yes.
I was here when you did your initial presentation, but I really kind of need a refresher. And for people that weren't here, can you tell us, kind of just refresh about how you got the idea? What's the concept and just a little bit, like back up a little bit.
It goes back, it's a long story in a way, because it goes back to my college days. And when I was done with Knox College, I had gotten this fascination with Buckminster Fuller, and wanting to live life on purpose and reading. So I was like, I want to have at least a year where I'm not in the job market, I'm out of college, I want to detox from college, kind of. So I moved.
Because that's so hard.
Yeah. So I moved to the woods of Maine. I lived in a cupcake-shaped hut called a yurt. And I just kind of geeked out on nature. I started drawing. I knew how to draw, so I would draw nude models 3 times a week, but I'd also draw pine cones and cadavers of little birds and seashells, and I was trying to find some kind of ideas about how the world's put together. Okay, and I always geeked out about trying to make a toy. And the problem with making a better building block is it's a really interesting question. It goes back to at least the Greeks about how everything is best put together. That's a very deep, difficult question. And the Greeks pondered these fundamental forms like the pyramid and the cube and the dodecahedron as being really quintessentially the most simple forms. And to them that was very profound. And it is actually, because the tetrahedron is what carbon is made out of. Okay? And Van Hoff, the scientist about 100 years ago, I have a little video about this, he was a physical chemist, and he said, I think at that time, everyone thought that the chemical world was all numbers. You couldn't visualize it. If you tried to visualize it, they'd think you're a mystic from the Middle Ages. That geometry had no more place in advanced science. That it was a mystical realm, metaphysical realm, and real scientists deal with math and hard numbers. But this chemical physicist named Van Hoff says, no, I'm looking at benzene, this chemical benzene, and all the numbers come out as 6s and 12s. I think these are arranging as hexagons, and the corners are little tetrahedrons, little 4-sided pyramids. And they thought he was a joke, and about 10 years later he got the Nobel Prize because he was totally right. And now we know the whole chemical world is DNA and all these molecules and crystals, and it's all geometrically understood. Here's an example. LUX will make this example right here. This is diamond. Okay, and these would all be carbon molecules right here, and they're all linked in the most efficient condensed pattern, and it's a diamond molecule. And you can see why diamond sparkles, because in certain areas you'll see beautiful openings where the light can go right through, and then it'll go around like that, and the light will refract a little bit, and then it'll go right through again. right? And that's why that crystal has that shimmering quality, because it allows perfect passageways right through. And diamonds appear, when you hold a diamond in your hand, you're holding one giant molecule. It's not like a conglomerate molecule where it's all grumpy and melted and stuff. You're holding like the edges of the molecule. So the light goes in one way, goes out the other, and it's one big consistent piece of architecture.
So Michael's background, if it's not obvious, he loves to talk. He actually studied engineering before he studied art. So there has been, throughout his life, there has been an interest in the study of naturally occurring geometries and patterns, not only from the science background, but from the art background. And there's a lot of other people that have inspired him, but throughout the years. So you imagine a course of a lifetime, thinking about these all somewhat related ideas. We wind up getting married and having kids, and we're very interested in education. You know, he taught in Chicago public schools, and being Frank Lloyd Wright enthusiast, Buckminster Fuller enthusiast, that's when we discovered Froebel, who's the inventor of kindergarten, who came up with these things called the gifts. And the gifts were referenced by Buckminster Fuller and Frank Lloyd Wright as being completely inspirational in terms of informing their knowledge of structure and form, and obviously these were pioneers in those areas. So, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, and those guys gave credit to they said that their time in kindergarten was some of the most formative things that ever happened to them as creators. Buckminster Fuller was almost blind at birth from being cross-eyed. He hadn't gotten corrective lenses yet. And he's in the new kindergarten, this new high technology that they brought over from Germany. And he's sitting there with the peas gift, which was soaked peas the night before and toothpicks. And he's putting together this thing and started to grow off the table to the ceiling. And later he'd patent it. It was called the octet truss. Alexander Graham Bell had invented it before, but didn't patent it. You'll see it when you go into an overpat, like a place where they do the toll booths. Right, and you'll see that big truss overhead with the triangles. That's an octet truss that he patented. So he invented something as a kindergartner. And if you go to Oak Park at the Unitarian Temple, the church there that Frank Lloyd Wright did, there's a picture in the original Froebel kits of things the kids can make with the blocks, and there's the Unitarian Temple. I mean, it's the Unitarian Temple. So Wright literally pulled out his aesthetic ideas from working with these geometric blocks. And we said we need a block for the 21st century that has in it ideas of quanta and atomics. And so we had to put principle, we call it the principle block. It's on the box, the principle block. And the principles are essentially that when an engineer builds a space station or a car, he doesn't lay bricks. And if he wants to lay bricks, you're not going to keep him hired for very long, because bricks make terrible cars and boats and airplanes and space stations, for a good reason. What he's going to do is he's going to take things like metal and plastic, and it usually comes in sheets, and he'll fold it. And what happens when you fold a material like metal? It becomes because it utilizes the tensile strength of the material. So those wings on an airplane were actually just big rolls of metal, but they folded it a certain way, so it's gigantic strength. So I said, okay, our block's got to utilize those principles that nature and engineering uses, like corrugation and like modularity. So one block, these are all made with one square. Everything here there's no specialized block that makes I call it, guess what company hired me to make this building? Viagra Towers.
Oh.
But everything in here, bad joke, everything in here is made with one square, okay? And there's no internal supports inside this building. This is completely hollow. All the structure on this building is coming from the skin. And in nature, that's what you find. The structure of things is usually utilized in the skin of a cell. Okay, then you get a bunch of cells all together, and you get wood. Okay, but that cellulose is just packed in these beautiful little cells, and all their strength is in their skin. So those are the principles we try to throw into the block, so kids can have in their hands natural principles. That was our focus.
And the interesting thing about the development process of this toy is we actually have in the can, so to speak, several other shapes with the hinge that would connect with this hinge. But we again just sort of accidentally discovered that there's this concept known as min-max, so you want to have a minimum inventory of parts and a maximum diversity of things that can come out of it. And what we found was that the square could do so much, as you can create, spheres with squares. We're like, let's just go out with the square. We can always add more later. Right. So that was a good.
Because the square imitates other shapes because it makes prisms. So if you take 5 squares, you can at the end of the squares, it'll be a pentagonal shape. So the squares can imitate a pentagonal shaped block. So even though we designed a pentagonal shaped block, we didn't have to make it. We actually designed it, but we don't have to produce it because the kid could imitate it. So like, wow, just let the squares go to town.
So again, what the key point of this is, whether a kid even knows about corrugation or modularity or any of those terms, through play, they're getting exposed to it, and they're going to get a sense of this, and that's what you want. That's what Buckminster Fuller had with the gifts and that sort of thing, and that's what we're trying to inspire and educate. Is they're having fun and they don't even realize they're learning. So that's really
Right.
great.
We're giving them
great
power to
process.
create things they never had the power to create before. Absolutely.
That was a very long answer to your question.
So are these available online too?
No, we did something because, again, we're kind of rebels. We want to support the brick and mortar stores that are supporting us. So we made a deliberate decision just for this season. Until January 2016, we're not selling online. We're only selling at brick and mortar neighborhood stores because we believe in shopping local. They're supporting us. We want to support them. That said, on our website, we still have to get this updated, but we have a few stores that are willing to take phone orders if you're not in the geographic area or within, if you're not near a store that's carrying us. But within this geographic area, we are being carried at the Riverfront Museum in Galesburg. We're being carried, and there's several others. So you can go on the map and check out where we're carried.
Yeah, Monthly Goosebumps in Galesburg, I know they mail out. They ship out.
Yeah.
Are you selling here today?
Well, we really wanted to support the Riverfront Museum, which is really just kind of like a walk right down the street. And
Yes,
Yeah,
if you
it's so
would,
good.
and if you could show them, yes, do me a favor if you would go by there, because I think there was some reluctancy, because gosh, how could anything good come out of your backyard? So, so if we could demonstrate that there's an interest, that would be awesome. Thank you.
So everything, they have all sizes?
They have
Oh, yeah.
all
And
sizes.
everything is interchangeable, like if you would buy 3 boxes of the 100 and something, I mean, that's all.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
have to keep everything separate, you just get a big bin and throw them
It's
all in.
Right.
it's the same, and they're all the same colors. Roughly 1/3 of each color. And these were colors he probably told you about, but we deliberately chose because we wanted to be gender neutral, and we also orange is my favorite color, and also we wanted to be different. We want to be different.
you don't
and-
see these colors in toy stores very often.
Yeah, and brand, but the young kids today, we found that we focus group with, the girls especially love the neon colors of tennis shoes that are all the rage now. So we went with, this is actually a neon blue, but we figured these appeal for now, and we could come out with other colors later. Yes?
Would you mind sharing, in this industry, is there a typical percentage that you get, or I guess what I'm asking about is there a predictable wholesale
Yes.
price, and are the retailers consistent on the percent they expect, or is it widely
Well, some are more greedy than others. Some are more greedy than others, but the standard for boutique stores is they call it Keystone, which is double.
So they pay X price for our wholesale, pay X, and they double it.
What we did though was at the fair, right before we went to the fair, where I saw all the deals. They said you gotta make deals. Like if they buy so much, they get 10% off shipping. If they buy so much, they get 50% off shipping. I was like, where do you get your shoes, Zappos? I said, why don't we give free shipping to everybody? And boy, did people get grumpy, because you're coming with free shipping, and people are like, good luck with your business. They got mad because that's like. The math then on the sales sheet makes sense. There's no complicated tricks. I just looked at it, right before this trade show, we looked at industry trends of shopping carts. And abandoned shopping carts is skyrocketing. Because you get to the shipping and handling part, and you feel like that's when they're jacking you. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And so I didn't want people to feel like we were jacking with them with the shipping and handling stuff. Let's just.
Well, they were really complicated formulas,
Yeah.
and also we're new, and also we need you to pay. We're not doing terms right now for our retailers. We're not doing terms because cash flow is key. We've invested a lot in just paying for the molds and the product. So when I spoke with this very seasoned rep last night, he said, no, I think that's fine. If you explain to them that you're doing free shipping, but because you are brand new, you need them to pay, then that's totally acceptable. So this is just kind of what we're doing to start. Then probably in 2016 we may add shipping, but the pricing structure we don't intend to change.
They might ask about terms, but almost 100% of the time they always come back and say, okay, I'll call you with my credit card number.
For now, but I mean,
Yeah.
we just need to get our structure in place and figure out how we're doing this before I could offer terms.
But we love getting terms.
Yes.
Freaking love terms.
And could you talk a little more about your own pricing strategy? Do you double over your cost, or do you have a strategy of selling super low right now just to kind of get your foot into the door? Or what can you tell us about that?
No, not really. We weren't nearly that. We probably should have been more disciplined about it. But what we did was we went and did a lot of research as to the other construction toys in this space and what are they charging, and kind of use those as markers for what would be a good price
Right.
point. And that was probably the biggest input.
So
as
we're
to
in the
how to
tier,
do
if you go to
this.
a bookstore, like, what's one of the big chain bookstores?
Barnes
Like
and
Barnes and
Noble.
Nobles, they have a toy section, and you'll see, and it's obviously, they're black labeled too. You'll see the black label editions of Lego and Nano Blocks, and they're black, right? And which we didn't really know about when we decided on black, but they go black too, because it shows more quality. It might be for an older audience, but it's a higher price point. And our price point is totally competitive with theirs. Okay, theirs is actually ridiculous, but so we do walk around the shops and see what's going on.
And Lego's very different in terms of their pricing structure. So for instance, I mean, if you go to Target, I invite you to go to Target and look at, maybe there'll be a model of a small Star Wars ship of some sort, maybe this big. They'll charge at least $40 for it. And there's many less pieces, there's less variety perhaps that you can do, but they're different because they're huge, and they are not great for retailers. These boutique stores carry them because they have to carry them. They don't make hardly anything
Right.
on them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what the end cap is called to boutique retailers? They call the end cap stuff, the small stuff, they call it the shut up toys.
Shut up toys, $5, $10. Okay, shut up.
Because the kid is bugging the parent, and the point of sale is being driven by the child. So the parent's like, I don't want to spend $95 on a Star Wars Death Star, which is more than that. So I'll buy you the little collectible dolls so Lego can get 10,000% markup. Right? That's what they're doing. They're only putting the Death Star in there so you buy the shut up toy. It's
Yeah.
very manipulative. The toy industry is kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies sometimes.
It's also
that way.
interesting geographically, the difference in price points in these boutique shops. So for instance, in Galesburg and Bloomington, they're saying, well, most people will spend on a birthday present $20. So they were a little skittish that we were going with $29, but for the value, and I mean, just the boxes are so expensive on these. They still feel it's upwards enough. It conveys, I don't know, a sense of greater value, the way it's packaged and so forth, that they can still sell it at that, but that's right on the cusp of what a birthday present
And some
would
people
be.
read Scandinavia. They offered that to us. Like we have a friend, they said, I thought it was Scandinavian by the colors. I was like, okay, that's cool.
But
I'll
then
take it,
again,
it's fine.
in Chicago, where we are represented quite a bit, those stores, they definitely, birthday presents are more like $40 or $50. And it's interesting, one retailer, we won't mention, Michael, actually is charging more than what we suggested, more than Keystone, because they think they can get it. And God bless, if you can, great.
Especially
Go
when
for
you're
it.
scarce. They say, oh, I can only get it on Michigan Avenue, or I have to go down to Wicker Park or Urbana. I'll buy it now. So and you can't get it online. So
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the 3D printing, like prototyping process of that. I mean, what tooling did you use?
before we did 3D printing, we actually commissioned somebody here in town to do a print for us. It was like $175 for a print that big. It took 2 weeks to make.
It's actually
And-
over $200, I remember.
Yeah, and we clicked it together. I was like, yeah, it works, but it wouldn't come apart. It was like a lock. Okay, now we have to wait 2 more weeks to spend $200 more to get. It was like, ugh. So we finally bought a maker bought 2X. Remember those? You have to be MacGyver. And it was true. Remember the guy at the picture with the glasses? This is for the MacGyvers out there. They basically launched a beta launch product that was going to fail. They said, so you got to be a MacGyver. I was like, yeah, I'm a MacGyver. So we put 4,000 hours into it. I mean, it worked for 4,000 hours. Okay, I rebuilt it 3 times. Sometimes I'd be on the phone with the guys. I'm like, okay, put the red button, the red cord in the green slot. It just turned off. Oh, you fried your motherboard. I'll send you another one. That was a typical conversation, right? A lot of times they send it for free. Because what they were doing was sometimes I have a little situation with them, and a couple weeks later there'd be a blog, and they have a new fix. And I was like, that was my fix. They were using the beta launch to innovate the product. It was really brilliant because they saw a bunch of them. I don't know what they're doing now. So 4,000 hours, work hours, we've made.
Well,
So many iterations.
Michael would draw. He's the artist, so he would draw an idea for a block, and we worked really closely with 2 families to get a lot of feedback. And our CAD designer was at that time a 15-year-old who had learned CAD design through the Lego Robotics Challenge.
He was a German immigrant, really smart. In the FRC challenge, they said, well, everybody had this software. And I was like, oh my gosh, this software is amazing. And one of the, you get points in your team if somebody on the team could design the robot in CAD. And he did it. I was like, Daniel, I can give him drawings. He can make the drawings in CAD. We can print the drawings. Now's the time. And our family is kind of going through a little economic crisis and there's an idea of emergence through emergency. Okay? And it's really true. And what we did was in our little economic emergency about employment and stuff, we said, Heather said, we agreed, let's put our money and resources into innovating a new product. So even though we had a little crunch crisis time, we hired a kid, we bought a printer, we started the patent process after we innovated. And it took a couple of years of running the printer. And
the whole process took 3.5 years to get to this stage. We're about 3.5 years.
We had an interim part that Heather hated, and we had a second connector, and she hated it.
Well, one thing that I've said the whole time, and I said if you'd gone to my idea, 2.5 years ago, I said it has to be a hermaphroditic connector. That is, it's male and female. But no, we had to experiment with the connector in the middle and this and that, and that's fine. But I'm sure we learned a lot through the process.
As a designer, you geek out on you're solving certain problems, and I'd be really psyched. We stopped the stagger problem. It was one of the problems we had. And she'd come home and say, oh, it feels terrible and it's ugly, It can't be ugly. So, and then we thought we had a product, and we had a big focus group, and this kid from Chicago was a cousin friend of ours. He was in the corner, I'll never forget, he was in the corner of our dining room table, and he was trying to stack a pyramid like Legos, and he was frustrated. And I almost wanted to cry because I knew we had to go back to redesign.
It was a real problem.
We went right back to the drawing board, and that's when we innovated the center hole. And we decided to go with dowel rods, so you can do face-to-face connections, which really exploded the potential of the product anyways. But focus groups are horrible experiences.
They're very useful experiences.
Horrible.
Follow-on question. I have 3 kids and building a little army of makers at my house. We have a 3D printer. Is there any thought on your end to embrace that part of the community, maybe release LUX-compatible files or things
Later.
that could be printed?
That's an idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea about shareware and getting it out there. Thingiverse does that.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So, what I was thinking was Thingiverse, but if you guys don't want to go with e-commerce because you want to support the brick and mortar, which I think is really admirable, maybe there's an e-add-on market.
Well,
we will eventually.
It would be really inefficient for a kid to try to make a set of 360 blocks with his printer.
Oh, absolutely.
But
some of the add-ons.
Yeah, but like a little winglet for a spaceship that we're not going to make. Yeah, anything, and have the kids invent for us.
Yeah.
And put it on our little Luxiverse.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's a great business model. We're just like little infants, and you're talking about like football. It's
like what happens? The other building block makers out there are very anti 3D printing. I mean,
they're scared to death of it.
They're totally freaked out,
Yeah.
right? And so a block manufacturer like yourselves that would embrace that part of the community and the YouTubers and everything.
Right.
My kids would be all over it. I mean,
Well,
they watch Minecraft videos. My daughter makes like furniture for her little pet shop toys and stuff. And we have a 3D printer. We made custom little Lego blocks and things like that, for those sets.
I see ourselves less as a toy company, more of a hardware company. We're selling hardware to kids because you can hang your cabinets on this stuff. I mean, it's like hardware. So we made that hole so kids could stick it into 5/16. She hates when I say this, but it'll self-tread. I mean, so you can.
And then you ruin it. So don't do that.
Then you ruin it. But I know if I was in my garage, I'd be like, give me that. But you could use it like hardware, and you could build things really fast that are really strong.
So that's definitely in the spirit, as we said, of what we're trying to do. Of course, we'd like to make money. I have a kid in college, but at the same time, we're not trying to gouge people. If you can use stuff that's around the house, it's again, you can tell we're coming at this from a different philosophy than some corporate toy company. We have an interest in education, so that's really fueling a lot of it.
And a couple of niche we're really into niche marketing. Because it's cheaper in a way if you can get in the blogosphere and go for. It sounds cynical, but on a lark, I said, I think that this might have applications in the autism community. We're already talking about OT, but now I said, maybe kids with autism would like this. So I through Facebook, I had a person I knew from my own hometown of Barrington, Maria, who had a beautiful smile, and she's a blogger on autism, and her kids had autism. So I went to her house. I said, can I stop by? I have this box of blocks for you. So show them to the kids, see what happens. So we're sitting with her and Jack, her husband. We're eating Italian food, and their kids playing with the blocks. He had a severe, or an Asperger's kind of thing. And they both hit the table at the same time and said, that's the longest he's ever played with a toy. The next day, he brought his friends over. They played for 5 hours, filmed the whole thing. Then she went a month later to D.C. to visit her friend Kathy, who's a big blogger in the autism community, who has a kid with severe autism, has a headset. He has severe autism. And they filmed, his sister was playing with the blocks, and they turned the camera on, and he wanted to play with the blocks. He's never played with a toy in his life. And he starts playing with the blocks. And they're all crying, and it was a freak out. This month in Autism File magazine, she's writing an article about family fun within an autism community, in a spectrum community, and she started writing about blocks a lot. It LUX in the article. And there's a strict policy in the magazine never to endorse a product. You can understand why, because they're a reputable magazine, like a journal. But she wrote about LUX so much, she said, okay, this is what we'll do. We'll do a special pull-out section on LUX, right? So that's a really big thing for us because of 40,000 viewership. And, but that was just, again, niching it over and saying, well, let's go in that community. Let's go in the teacher community.
It's really wonderful when you have a product that people genuinely like and then you are the recipient of their goodwill. And that is the best kind of advertisement you can possibly have.
Oh, yeah.
So Chicago Parent Magazine is going to be featuring us. We're hoping that Meredith Sinclair, the toy lady, is going to be, she's going to be writing about us. It'd be nice if she would put us on her television show. But it's interesting. I just want to share one interesting thing that happened to us this week. Michael was very excited because I got a call from a Hollywood television producer from Renegade 38, and they are
83.
Or 83, I'm sorry, and they are about to do a sort of a children's Shark Tank about toys. And if I've heard, hey, are you going to go on Shark Tank once? I've heard it a million times. The
answer is no.
But this was a new thing, and someone had told them, you know, these are pretty interesting people, and you should consider having on the show. And I was initially pretty excited. We were both pretty excited. And they were going to Skype interview us, and we had to look a certain way, and send in a bunch of family photos and kind of give a sense of what our hobbies are and just how good we would be on TV. And so we thought this could be good. However, our attorney looked at the contract, and it was unbelievable. Just so you know, just like a little insight as to what these shows are like. It said, we may deliberately misrepresent your product, lie about you, lie about your product, blah, 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 for dramatic effect. Yep. And if you sign this, you're taking the risk that you could be one that they position as a loser, and you will have no idea. So some people take that risk, and if you really think about Shark Tank, it's not that different. That if you think about, there's usually a couple that they kind of present as winners, and then the rest not so much. So honestly, I told Michael, I said, I think we're too new to take a risk like that when we're getting such goodwill anyway. Why would we want to? This is obviously a good toy doing good things for a lot of people.
And we're not doing this for celebrity. We don't want to be the Kardashians.
I don't want to be
famous.
famous. I don't.
Like that.
Yeah. So this is. So
Heather's got the body for it, but you know.
Thank you, dear. So at any rate, we chose to pass on that. But I thought you'd find that interesting. That's how those shows go.
And they'll investigate you. They'll try to find something
course.
about you that they can use as a little surprise element to film you being surprised.
Yeah, wouldn't that be awful?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And have kids, can you imagine being berated by smarty kids?
Bottom line, I don't think I could handle that. No, I don't think I could handle that. Did you have a question?
I was just going to say, we're going to get wrapped up here.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for speaking.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are we all welcome to stick around?
Yeah.
Sure,
About the
absolutely,
toys?
yes.
Absolutely.
And then you guys can be found at the museum. I'll just repeat that one more time. Simple Buy Toys, Christmas is coming.
And if you don't go there, call them up and say, do you have LUX? That goes so far.
We appreciate that.
Where are you guys at?
Oh,
Peoria committee that sort of oversees all this stuff. I'm fascinated by this because you're a wonderful story. You've come a long way since you were here the first time. You're following a pattern of changing things. In my other life, I deal with corporate America all the time in terms of diversifying their corporate boardrooms and attempting to get them changed to orienting themselves to going down the road you're going down. So you represent the new wave of doing business. I'm fascinated by that. Would you come back in a year and let us know how you're doing as it relates to that and avoiding the corporatization of American marketing sales in the toy industry?
sure.
Sure.
That'd be fun.
Thank you.
Howie didn't make money last year.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank Thank
Come
you.
Drink the coffee and stick around and check these out.
Thank you.